In July 2025, Prince William signed a 20-year lease that could have stayed private, the way most royal property arrangements do. Instead, he made sure the public would eventually see the exact number, and that number was nearly £100,000 more than it needed to be. The property is Forest Lodge, a Grade 2 listed Georgian mansion in Windsor, Great Park, complete with a private tennis court and a lake, which William and Catherine moved into in October 2025 with their 3 children. The family had previously lived at Adelaide Cottage, a smaller property nearby, and the move to Forest Lodge roughly doubled their available bedroom space. A practical upgrade for a household with 3 growing children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Though it came bundled with the same increased scrutiny, now attached to nearly every royal address. Land registry documents filed the following may confirm the couple as leaseholders, paying £307,500 a year. That total breaks down into £234,000 for the main residence itself, with a further £73,200 covering 3 additional cottages on the grounds reserved for staff and security personnel. According to the terms filed with the lease, their predecessors at the same address, Alexander Fitzgibbons and Christina Stembeck, who had held a joint tenancy since 2019, paid £216,000 annually for the identical property. William and Catherine are paying roughly £91,000 more than the last tenants did for exactly the same house. The lease also specifies that rent will be reviewed every 5 years, with any increase capped between 3% and 5%, and restricts the property's use exclusively to a private family home, ruling out any future commercial or alternative purpose for the site. Kensington Palace confirmed the family retained Department 1A at Kensington Palace as a London base, meaning the move to Windsor added a second significant household expense, rather than replacing one address with another. That figure wasn't the result of a negotiation. It came from a formal commercial valuation, conducted by 3 independent property firms who assessed the market rate and advised the Crown Estate accordingly. Independent valuations of that kind are standard practice for large commercial leases, but rare for royal residential arrangements, where terms have traditionally been agreed privately between the family and the Crown Estate without external benchmarking. Filing the lease with that valuation attached, rather than negotiating a lower figure informally, was according to reporting since a decision made jointly with the Crown Estate to put the number on the public record, rather than leave it to speculation. Most royal leases, including several held by other family members, have never been subjected to that same kind of public disclosure, leaving their actual market comparisons largely a matter of outside estimation, rather than confirmed fact. The money itself comes from William's private income through the Duchy of Cornwall, the 800-year-old estate that has funded the Prince of Wales since 1337, not from any public grant or taxpayer fund. A Sunday Times investigation around the same period estimated William's own annual tax contribution at somewhere between £5 and £7 million. A detail that circulated alongside the rent figures as evidence of how the money moving through his household actually works. The duchy itself operates independently of the sovereign grant entirely, drawing its income from a portfolio of roughly 135,000 acres across England, ranging from farmland and forests to urban commercial property and holiday cottages, with William inheriting both the title and the estate automatically upon his father's accession to the throne in 2022. The timing mattered as much as the number. Only months earlier, the public had learned exactly how differently rent could work for a different member of the family. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had paid a token, symbolic rent, known as a peppercorn arrangement, on Royal Lodge for nearly 2 decades, following an £8 million refurbishment paid for out of public funds, before he was evicted from the property entirely in February 2026. The 30-room mansion, granted to him under a 75-year lease from the Crown Estate in 2004, had become one of the most cited symbols of unequal royal privilege by the time public pressure finally forced the arrangement to end. a fall from a peppercorn deal to no residence at all that took place within the same 18-month window, as William's own rent became public. Prince Edward and Sophie held a similar arrangement at Bagshot Park, starting at £5,000 a year in 1998, and eventually rising to £90,000, a figure the National Audit Office itself had once described as market value, despite sitting far below what Forest Lodge now commands. Both arrangements had been negotiated in eras when the terms attracted little outside scrutiny, long before the same royal residences became subjects of parliamentary questions and national newspaper investigations decades later. Royal editor Emily Nash, discussing the disclosure on Hello Magazine's podcast, put the calculation in blunt terms. William, she said, understood exactly how bad the peppercorn arrangements looked, and had no intention of letting anyone assume he was benefiting from a similar deal himself. Sources close to the prince, cited separately in reporting around the same period, went further, framing the Forest Lodge disclosure as part of a broader instinct William was said to be developing ahead of his own eventual reign, a willingness to examine long-standing royal financial arrangements and question whether each one still served a purpose in the modern institution rather than simply continuing them because they had always existed. The lease runs until at least 2045, and William and Catherine have reportedly already discussed seeking a further extension once that term expires. The couple have described Forest Lodge as their forever home, a phrase that has since appeared in nearly every subsequent report about the property, distinguishing it explicitly from the more temporary residences they occupied earlier in their marriage. Kensington Palace confirmed the designation would hold even after William's eventual accession to the throne. A break from precedent for a family whose monarchs have traditionally been expected to live at Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle itself, rather than a private leased home nearby. The lease carried one more disclosed cost beyond the rent itself. Because the annual figure exceeded a threshold normally associated with property purchases rather than tenancies, William was required to pay roughly £42,000 in stamp duty on the day the lease was signed, calculated, according to tax specialist Dan Needle, using a net present value formula applied to the full stream of rental payments rather than a single purchase price. It was one more number that could have stayed buried in a filing cabinet. For a family that has spent the past year watching one relative's living arrangement become a national controversy, overpaying by nearly £100,000 a year, and disclosing every figure attached to it down to the stamp duty, reads less like an oversight than like the exact opposite of an accident.